Hello YouTube, I'm Zach, you're watching ZakDTV. Thanks for stopping in. If you like what I do, make sure to subscribe. If you don't, leave me a comment, let me know why. I like to do my show in 4 parts. Something interesting, something fun, something important, and then we'll do something dumb. Wrap up the day, give us a little chuckle before we get on with it. Today, for something interesting, I'd like to tell a story of a Canadian woman named Melissa Benoit. Melissa's 32 years old, she's a mother, and she was born with cystic fibrosis. And she lived for 6 days without her lungs. Back in April, she had the flu, and she came down pretty hard with it. In fact, hard enough that when she was coughing, she ended up breaking ribs. Like anyone would do when you're that sick, you go to the hospital. When she got to the hospital, doctors found out she only had a couple hours left to live. Her body was going into septic shock. It seems that her flu had turned into an infection in her lungs. Because her time was short and the doctors didn't have many options, they decided to remove her lung. Yup, they pulled them right out of her. That's not too odd. Usually they just do a transplant. In her case, they didn't have a donor lined up. So they took her lungs out and put her on an artificial lung for 6 days. This artificial lung kept her alive during that whole time. They did find some new lungs for her after 6 days. They got those put in, and now she's living happy and healthy. She has stated that they've saved her life. This is believed to be the first operation of this kind ever performed. Pretty interesting stuff, right? Let's move forward with a question. How would you like to have the day after Super Bowl off? The Monday after Super Bowl without having to go to work. It'd be pretty great, right? I know I'd love it. After a day of beer and wings, couldn't get much better than be able to sleep in the next day. The people at Heinz, they've got your back. They have started a petition to make Monday, I don't like the name, Smunday. They're doing hashtag Smunday and trying to get it declared as a national holiday. According to information provided by Heinz, 16 million people call off work or don't show up the day after the Super Bowl. And of the people that do show up, they don't work as hard, and they're costing America $1 billion in that one day in lost productivity. Sounds like a pretty good reason to take the Monday off. For my important topic of the day, I want to talk about pipelines. I saw where President Trump pushed through an executive order to continue with the Keystone Pipeline. This was the same day I read an article about a massive pipeline spill in Saskatchewan, up in Canada. Well, just today I read another article about a spill here in Iowa. I thought to myself, maybe I should look into this, see how often these things happen, see what causes them, and what could be done about them. And I'll tell you what, the numbers were pretty shocking. I didn't pay much attention to it. I've heard about the protests and the demonstrations and everything, this Keystone XL, but I didn't really know anything more than that. So today I went and looked into it, and there's a leak in Iowa. It let 138,000 gallons worth of diesel fuel out into a field in Iowa. Didn't contaminate any local waterways. Friday, almost 53,000 gallons leaked in Saskatchewan. That was on indigenous tribes' land. It didn't hurt anyone. It wasn't near anybody's buildings or anything, but it was near a sacred burial ground. 7 months ago, there was another leak in Canada that lost 55,000 gallons. That polluted a river that was the drinking water for 2 separate towns. So I started looking into it. In my research, I found that between 2010 and 2013, there were 1,400 serious spills in the United States alone in a 3-year period. And according to the Wall Street Journal, 4 out of every 5 spills, 80% of all spills, are found by people, not the company that owns the line. In one case, there was a story of a farmer. He went out to mow the wheat in his field, and he found 6 football fields worth of his land contaminated with oil that had leaked from a pipe that had been leaking for nobody knows how long. And that brings up the question, how many of these pipes are leaking out there right now that we don't even know about? Just out in the wilderness somewhere, passing through a long stretch between Canada and America, spewing oil into nature, and we don't even know what's happening. There are 2.5 million miles worth of line in America. Seems pretty crazy, doesn't it? Here's the map. Those are all lines carrying gas, oil, natural gases, dangerous chemicals buried under our ground. That 2.5 million number does not include the small ones that hook up to houses, like the local town here has natural gas. Doesn't count those. These are the lines that get it from a distribution point to distribution point. There are lines in the ground right now that are over 100 years old. Half the lines are over 50 years old. Since 1986, more than 500 people have been killed and 4,000 people have been injured in accidents that resulted from leaking pipelines. Now, we do have a system in place to monitor these. There's a section of our government called Administration, Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. According to their rules, they only require 7% of all natural gas lines and 44% of all other hazardous liquid lines be checked regularly. The rest of the lines, they say, do get checked, but not nearly as often. Part of the problem is funding. These people are underfunded. Enough money coming in to staff 137 inspectors. They find that they're having a hard time keeping people, though, because the gas companies like to poach inspectors from them and bring them over into their own self-regulating. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration only keeps about 110 inspectors employed. Could you imagine if you had 110 people trying to inspect 2.5 million miles worth of line? That's what's happened. So a lot of the regulation here falls back on the companies that actually run the pipelines. They say they're doing their best. They're trying to make sure that there are no leaks. Leaks cost them profit, if nothing else. So I'm sure they don't want to see leaks. At the same time, are they going to regulate themselves as heavily as they should? I really don't want to give my opinion on this one. This is a big topic. What can be done about it? How can it be fixed? I don't know. I know there are call-outs for automatic shutdown valves that when a leak is detected, they'll shut down the pipe immediately. I know the companies have said that automatic shutdown valves would be too expensive to install on all the pipes. They do use them on the most modern pipes, but only in the areas that they consider high risk, around towns where there'd be a lot of personal damage or property damage if the pipelines were to rupture. All in all, it seems like a pretty lax system to me, and as we move forward here, we're going to see more and more leaks out of these lines the older they get. Corrosion is inevitable, shifting, freezing, thawing is going to happen, and they are going to rupture. And when they do, they can cause massive loss of life and gigantic environmental hazards. Pipelines are still safer, though, than transporting this stuff over the road or by rail car. You can compare it to how flying in a plane is safer than driving in a car. Yes, more people die in car accidents every year, but when a plane wrecks, it's a much bigger accident. Same deal with the pipelines. When these pipelines break, there's a lot bigger environmental impact than smaller loads being affected at a time. There's also the cost effectiveness of this. If we were to ship everything by train or by tanker, we would end up paying a lot more at the pump or a lot more to heat our homes. And I know people don't like to do that either. So what's the solution to this? I want to know what you guys think. How do we solve this problem? And what can we do going forward to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future? That we don't have more pipeline spills or pipeline explosion as we move forward. And that's all I have to say about that. My winner for today's Dumb of the Day is Sierra Coleman from St. Louis. Now, Sierra decided she was going to do some shopping at local IKEA. The only problem with that is she didn't want to spend money. Her solution was to shop. Better idea than spending money, right? She decided she needed a new pan and thought a great spot to hide it would be down her pants. She seemed to forget, though, she was wearing skin-tight leggings. Obviously, store security noticed, and when they approached her about it, she denied all wrongdoing. She didn't know what they were talking about. As they tried to detain her, she thought the best course of action would be to fight them, scratch, kick, bite, and try to get away, which turned a shoplifting charge into shoplifting and assault. For that, I thank you, Sierra, for being my Dumb of the Day. Now, that's going to wrap up my show today. Let me know what you think about it. Send me some comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. It's your opinion, I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Share the video with your friends. I hope to see you guys again tomorrow. I'll be here. And always, I'll see you tomorrow.